So let's look at how we would get started with making a video game. And we're going to do this by doing the most simple thing that you can do in a video game, and that's to create the graphics, to actually create what's going to be demonstrated on the screen. And we're going to be doing this project in PyGame. And one of the cool things about PyGame is it's actually really simple to do this. So I'm going to add a little twist to it. I'm also going to add animation to this as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a block on the screen, and then we're going to animate it moving around the screen. So the very first thing that you want to do is to just create that window. And to get started, we also need to talk about those libraries. Now, in a PyGame game, the most basic library you're going to need is, of course, PyGame. Now, in addition to that, I'm going to import another library, the system library. And the main reason I'm going to import the system library is so that we can have clean exiting of the program. I'm personally programming in Python 2.7, but this code should work equally well in Python 3. And one of the reasons I'm including the system is because I've noticed when I run my programs in Python 3, they don't exit cleanly unless you do the system exit. So I'm going to add that component in here. So I have the two libraries that I know I'm going to need. And if I need more libraries as I move on, well, so be it. I'll deal with that when I come to it. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is you want to set up the PyGame environment, and this is the pygame.init. Now, I don't think it's going to be necessary for this game, but as we add more complex things to our PyGames, you're going to want that in there. And it's just a good habit to include that in all of them, all of your PyGame games, so that if you need it, it's already there for you, and you don't got to worry about it. And it does help improve the functionality of it a little bit in my experience. The next thing I want to do is define the size of my screen. So I'm going to define my size. I'm going to give it a width and a height. And I'm going to give it a width and height of 640 by 480. Now, I am using chained assignment here, so what you'll see is I have the 640, 480 being assigned to width and height, and that width and height being assigned to a tuple of size. I've heard people say that this is bad programming practice, but I find this an easy way to document your code without having to put formal comments in there, because I see the variables and I have two different ways I can use those variables, so this works out very well for me. The next thing I want to do is to add the block that I'm going to be drawing on the screen. So I'm going to create a rectangle, and it's going to be a PyGame rectangle. And let's just create a 50 by 50 pixel rectangle. We'll start it at 50 by 50. Alright. Now, I want to define two colors. I'm going to use black as my background color. So we'll define that, and that is the red, green, and blue of 0. And then we're going to create also yellow. That's going to be the color of my cube. Yellow is full value of red, full value of green, and no blue. Okay, so those are going to be the things I'm going to need to draw to the screen. And I'm going to go ahead and add the animation component here, even though we're not going to animate it right away. But I want to go ahead and start a clock for this. So I'm going to get the PyGame's clock. Okay, and then the next thing is to set up the actual screen. So I'm going to create my screen. That's pygame.display.set mode, and here you can see we use that size variable that we created up here. Now, alternatively, I could put the tuple in there directly with the width and height, but this allows me kind of like a one-stop shop on that. All right, and then I'm going to create my game root. So while true, I'm going to have the game run. And here's what I need it to do is we're going to get our game loop first, or the events in the event queue. Okay, and for right now, we're only going to trap one event. And that event is if we're trying to quit. And this is an event that's like, oh, I hit the X and I want out of this game. So the first thing we need to do is to quit the PyGame so that the PyGame threads that are running will be stopped and closed. and then we will exit the system. All right, groovy. So this gets us set up to get started. Okay, so let's go ahead and get the screen up, because I don't want to get too much code before I try something out, but I want to make sure I have enough for the game to be functional. So we're going to fill the background black, and then we're going to flip the display. Now, I do have the Python documentation off on another screen that I'm referencing right now. I highly recommend that you do the same thing so that you can make sure that you're keeping track with what needs to be there. Okay, so I'm going to flip it. This is going to render my screen, and then I want the animation to move forward. And I'm going to set it to 30 FPS for right now. Okay, so I want to test this to make sure that works, so make sure you save, and then we're going to run it. Okay. Oh, 2 equal signs in a comparison. Okay, so I got my black window. Okay, cool beans. Now let's draw our rectangle to the screen. So we're going to draw a rectangle. Okay, so we're using the screen context, the color yellow. We're going to draw that rectangle, and we're going to draw it filled in. Okay, so let's save that and run it, and then I have my square on screen. So it's super easy to draw stuff on here, and if you want to learn how to draw other things, there's circles, you can draw text, and I may actually do a complete lesson on how to insert text in your games. But remember, the Pygame documentation is really good. I highly recommend that you check it out to figure out what you want to do with that. Okay, now I did say I want to animate this. So in order to animate it, we got to do a couple of things. The first thing we need to do is we need to give that square a velocity. So I'm going to go back up to my variables. So I put all my variables at the top to make them easier to find. And so I'm just going to add one right after this rectangle. That will be the speed of the rectangle. And just for right now, I'm going to set that speed to be 4 pixels in both the X and Y direction. Okay, and once I've created that speed, what I want to do is to move that rectangle. So after I check to see if the game is over inside the event, the game loop, we're going to move that rectangle. We're going to move at the speed. And this is in the Pygame rectangle class. It's really neat. It has a move function that will automatically apply a list of X and Y velocity. I highly recommend it. It works out quite well. Okay, so that's going to move it. So let's just check that real quick. Now remember, your coordinates goes positive to the right and positive down. Of course, the y-axis is flipped from what we're used to. So we'll check this, and there you go. Got a moving block. Cool. So the next thing I want to do is check to see if that block is colliding with the top or bottom of the screen, because I don't want it to move right off the screen. So we can do this by checking the location of it. So we say if the rectangle on the left is less than 0, or the rectangle on the right is greater than the width. Okay. Then we're going to change the speed in the 0 direction to be negative. Now remember, what this is going to do is if it's a positive, it'll become negative, and a negative becomes positive. So that's how it controls the movement. We want to do the same thing in the vertical direction, so we'll check for the top. Again, 0 is going to be your top coordinate. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing, but this time we're going to change the Y component, which is in index 1 of that array. And there we go, and we'll see bounce, bounce, and bounce. So there, successfully created animation on the screen. So what you should do is you should take this information and try creating something new. Create a circle that's moving around in the grid. Maybe you have a circle floating off to the edge of the screen. Have it show up on the other side of the screen. Just play around with it, try different things, get creative, and above all, have fun.